but she told me anyway.
Yeah.
And she said, she's gone back with her ex-boyfriend. They're having problems, and he was actually a junkie, heroin addict, and he's got HIV.
Fuck yeah.
And my heart just fucking sunk. I was just like, what? What do you mean? Like, I knew what she said,
Yeah.
but
This
I was like, what do you mean?
doesn't compute.
I was shaking, and I really wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No.
I really wouldn't. So for best part 5 years, I kept that with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Air and Out podcast. Now, again, today we have another exciting interview in store for you. Today I'm joined by Alex. Wait, Alex, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, I know. It's
Real pleasure.
been a funny old road between you and I, hasn't it?
Yeah, really has, yeah.
We were saying just a moment ago, we met I think it was about 3 years ago, when I was...
Yeah, give or take a few months here and there, yeah.
In the lorry bay of a Waitrose.
Yeah.
You were offloading the goods, and I was the one whose responsibility it was that morning to receive them.
Sure.
But some way or another, I think you might have seen something that was going on in my face or my aura, as it were, and you started asking how I was, and then one thing went to another, and
yeah.
I don't know, I think my bosses were a bit irritated with me that day because
the conversation went on quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think the normal window of time went a little bit over the normality, but...
Yeah, what was supposed to be about a 20-minute conversation became about near 50 minutes to an hour, but...
Yeah.
We were just getting on, like a house on fire, weren't we?
Yeah, we kind of resonated, mate, and I think you're right there. I tend to go about my time as a lorry driver. When I was going to a delivery, for example, is to have it in my mindset to leave a positive footprint.
Yeah.
So I'd always go above and beyond and just help out and just be polite and courteous and all those kind of good stuff that you would expect, right? Because I'm only there for a short part of your day. So the last thing you want to be is sort of turning up and being like grumpy and moody and not being helpful and all that kind of stuff. But there was just a general sense of like, I want to ask you, you're all right, dude? Because like there's, is everything okay? And it was genuine as well. And I think that you realised that as well.
Yeah. And
I think it had got to a point where it was like, it was almost like it was. Sometimes it's hard, isn't it? Because you just think people are just asking if you're all right, just to say, oh yeah, how's things, mate?
Yeah.
But when there's a little bit more genuine, when you're genuine about it, I think that's where we made that connection, and we just started the conversation enveloped a little bit, didn't it?
It just kept rolling and rolling, and we ended up sharing these fantastic stories. There are so many details about your story that I remember to this day, and I have told other people. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I get to hear it for the second time today and get to share it with the people. But that one conversation from 3 years ago is why we're here today.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty astonishing. We sometimes just those small conversations can have a massive impact, and you don't quite expect it to happen that way. But that's just how things are. That's how things pan out.
I love that you kind of, it's not your responsibility, but you choose to have that positive impact on people. You know that you're only going to be seeing these people for a short period of time throughout their day. You make the choice to try and make people's days a little bit better. I love that. So Alex, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are, or at least maybe we should start from the beginning, if you like. Talk to me about your childhood. So,
I think for most of us, right, we've all, especially in our younger days, like we're brought up in a loving environment. Everything's great because you're not really aware of the world. So like my upbringing was a good one. So for the best part, for the first part, it was great. My dad worked hard, ex-military, electrical engineer. My mum was a hairdresser, and she was a childminder, walking angel. My dad ruled the roost with a little bit of Probably Iron Fist was probably a little bit too strong, but you know, it was an old school upbringing. You know, if you stepped out of line, you would know about it.
Discipline. Yeah.
So that was all really good. But we definitely lived in sort of. It wasn't easy financially. So you know, it wasn't easy. You know, it was always brought up that it was quite tough. We never had enough money to do the school trips, and you know, we were buzzing around in like Dunlop Green Flash and Gola and all that, and everyone else had Nikes and Pumas and going on the ski trips and stuff, and like we never really had all that. You know, coming back from holidays and I had tans and stuff. So as a youngster, you know, I was very quickly aware that we didn't have that kind of lifestyle. So I think that's probably been a big push for me, like to always not so much want for more, but I think just to push myself out there with the level of capabilities that I had.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't really until I started to grow up a little bit, turning into a young man, where I started to be a little bit more rebellious.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, started to challenge my father a bit more, which didn't go down too well, right? Because it's very, very turbulent.
Yeah.
I was a challenge. I mean, look back at it now, and you've got to be accountable, right, for your life. I think that's one big lesson I feel that I've learned. You need to be accountable.
Yeah.
So back then, it was everyone else's fault. You know, I weren't the issue.
Yeah.
It was my dad. He was this. He was that, and blah blah blah. And actually, you know, your parents do the best that they can with what they've got.
Yeah.
And that's how they bring you up. But it ended up, it ended up with me being thrown out because I challenged my father. Yeah. So the physicality stuff, he couldn't really do anymore. So like, if he couldn't get his own way, or his opinion wasn't heard, or we stepped out of line, it was it's a bit of a,
right.
So.
And how old were you at this time?
So I was actually 16.
Okay.
Coming up 17, and I was literally thrown out of my house.
Yeah.
Because of how I responded to my father. And yeah, it's tough. It was tough, you know. And I think now that, you know, I've got to be accountable for that. But I was so frustrated at the time.
Yeah. Like
the environment was quite suppressive. So it was either my dad's way or the highway.
Right. So,
you know, we didn't really have much say when you're younger. When I started to grow out, it was like, no, I'm challenging that. And so it didn't end up too well. And then, of course, living on sofas, friends' houses, cars, abandoned cars and stuff when I couldn't get into a mate's house.
Really?
Or I outstayed my welcome. You know, I could hear them talking in the kitchen. It'd be like, no, how long is Alex going to be on the sofa for? You know, it's like, man. So, but then my environment changed massively. So I ended up on the streets, bumming around parks, led to mischievous like activities, which then led to like drugs, alcohol, scrapping, fighting. Because I was always taught from my father. I think because of quite a tough upbringing himself.
Okay.
His father was a Welsh guard, and his father's fathers were all like Welsh miners, so they're quite tough people.
So,
and you know, like children were seen, not heard.
Right.
Right. So every time we went to my father's grandparents' place or his parents' place, we were sort of like segregated. Right, you're over there, kids over there, right. You know, sit on stairs, that kind of stuff. You know, it's old school kind of stuff. So yeah, it kind of really spiraled out, and I just said in my messages, just like was my dad used to say was never be a bully, but also don't be bullied either. Okay. You need to be in that sort of like that middle place, but actually looking back at it in a way that my father was probably one of my biggest bullies in a way.
Okay.
You know, probably with no real intention from him to come across that way.
Yeah.
You know, I look back at it now, but so every time that I went out of the house, there was no conversation. You couldn't have a conversation. You know, it was really tough. Like anytime you had tried to talk about something or something different, it ended up in just being shouted down, suppressed, and even to the point where my mother was like, "Be quiet." You know, you can't have. It doesn't matter. This is it.
It seems that word that you keep using, suppressive, is quite appropriate, because I imagine it just puts you in a bit of a box.
Yeah, it did massively, and like, you know, and seeing my older brother as well, like just struggle. I mean, I struggled at school anyway, like on an academic level.
Right.
Like I used to stutter terribly because of like conversations. I couldn't get my words out because I was just told to shut up or be quiet. So I'd stutter so much. So actually, to the point where now I can talk quite freely.
Yeah.
So that's a win for me. But yeah, that period of time that I was out of the house with no real father figure other than the lessons that I've kind of learned from my dad. Anyone outside that was challenging, it just ended up like 0 to 100 mile an hour in a second. And it was just like...
I can imagine if that's what you've been trained and that's what you've been conditioned to know, and that's all that you know, that might work within your house under a suppressive father, but when you're taken out into the streets, I imagine it's a completely different kind of ballgame.
But don't get me wrong, my father's got a heart of gold as well, which is so like, I don't know if it's bizarre, but I don't know if anyone out there can resonate where you had a father that's quite strict and quite firm, but also at the same time loved you, because he does. He does. I love my old man to bits, believe me.
Yeah.
As much as we still have our little clashes now and then, and it's all about opinions. What's right and what's wrong, and it's just like, man, like, does it matter what's right and what's wrong within reason? You know, like, it's just a conversation. It doesn't need to get where it gets to, and it's painful sometimes. But yeah, that was a real tough time. So yeah, drugs became my escape.
Right.
Out on the streets, you know, and when I didn't have somewhere to stay, that was hard. So I just roam. I just roam around and just, and actually, there's this one time, my curiosity found me a haven, a space that I had for myself. It was how it come about. Our local library where we got brought up in, which was just down the road from Kingston, a place called New Malden, and they had the New Malden Library there, and this new office building went up the side of it, and literally there was a fire escape, like, you know, the metal fire escapes that go up the side of these buildings, and it went right up to the lower level flat roof of the first level of the library.
Okay.
So, curiosity, I just climbed up, jumped over. There's a wall ladder that took me up to another platform, and it was just literally the size of your garden out the back. It was just huge, and there was this little box kind of shed on the top, which ended up being the plant room for the boiler. Mm-hmm. And on this particular night, it couldn't have come back because it's freezing. So, and it was unlocked, and I got in there, and it was like a little 4x6, 6x6, and it was just cozy as anything. Yeah. So I had a little backpack. Yeah. With my little rucksack, and I had like one of those like camping roll-out stuff and bits and pieces, and had all my just my life in that bag. And I spent a good few nights in there. I made it my own, and like I had little candles and stuff that I managed to put in there and stuff. It was pretty special. But unfortunately, for the company that I kept, one night I didn't have my wits about me as much, and a couple of my friends saw me go up there. And it ruined it, because it started to become a little bit of a gathering place for everyone, and rolling up your bifters and having a drink and stuff, and just a bit of noise. And then one day it just got it was like not fenced off, so you couldn't get access to it. So, but that's like one of my biggest memories when I was actually homeless or didn't have a permanent residence at the time. But that changed very quickly as well, and I found myself having a permanent residence for a short time.
Okay.
So through my kind of toxic environment, so conversations, pointing the finger, the people that I hang around with, the things we were doing, and it was inevitable through scrapping and fighting and all the nonsense that we used to get up in. I ended up getting arrested, and I went to young offenders.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I was, before I knew it, I was literally contained just because of my behaviour. And
so young offenders.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 17, nearly 18, and then I got out literally just before my 19th. So I spent actually nearly 18 months.
Really?
It was just an absolute just snowballed. It wasn't just one thing. There was loads of stuff, and me being me at that time, code of silence. So a lot of the guys that I was hanging around with doing the things that we did, they never they never had any experience of what I had. But looking back at it, quite rightly, they probably should have come and shared it with me. In all fairness, but that's that kind of pride thing where you just like, back then at that time it was like, nah, just got on with it. But I don't want to say that it was too difficult, because it wasn't actually. But I learned some lessons from that massively. Like the second night, third night there, it comes sort of hit you. And I'll be truthful, man, I got a bit tearful, man.
Yeah.
I was like sitting there thinking, Christ, man, what's actually happened here? Little bit of a realisation. And so coming out of, when I was released, it was, I need to do something. But I still had that environment that I was coming back out into, so I still were associating a little bit with these people.
Right.
But I kind of moved on a little bit.
So you've changed, but the problem that caused it hasn't necessarily changed.
Not straight away, no. So, but I went off and did my lifeguard course. I got a lifeguard course, a brand new swimming pool in East Molesey.
Okay.
That was opening up.
And what motivated you to do that?
Just some change.
Yeah.
Because my kind of work life was all just labouring stuff. So even though I was homeless at the time before, I was still working, and I walked onto like building sites. So I was just labouring on like any building site. I just walk onto one. Got any work? And then I ended up getting a really good job with a company called Broad Oak Construction. And Andy was like a father figure to me there. He was a decent fella, decent boss. Looked after us, mate. Took us out on motorbikes. I'd be on the back. He was like, he could ride a bike like proper, and. He picked me up one time. He was doing endos and wheelies with me on the back of it, and I'm looking behind me. So that was good. That was good working with Andy. That was all prior, young offenders. But after that, I was still surrounded by like the people that I knew, because I was still living in sort of Kingston and Malden, and. The job came, and it was nice. It was a different environment, and I met one of my lifetime long friends, my mate Darren. He's an ex-paratrooper, medically discharged, and he was literally medically discharged at the same time I was almost released. We got on, top guy. Yeah. Top guy, and I think he influenced me a lot more to step away from all of the other stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, he liked to have a smoke as well, so. It still had that, still that toxicity of consumption. So like marijuana, cocaine. Oh, really? Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on, still, but
you're making some shifts in your environment.
Yeah, but it was a better environment, even though the consumption stuff that we were doing wasn't necessarily the best. but it was just better company that I was doing it with.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does. It does.
Does that
It's
make
like
sense?
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah. So that didn't last that long because a bit of the old ugly head still sort of come up and stuff, and then had a very another close shave from actually going back to jail.
Really?
Yeah. So I lost the job there because we were up late drinking, still young, and then I weren't showing up for shifts. Right. So hey, I'm accountable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so sorry, mate, lost your job. And it's like, mate, so I needed to pay rent. So then I went out on a bit of a spree, trying to get some money together. Got nabbed, got caught. So we were sort of a bit like breaking into cars and like laptops and all this kind of stuff. So I'm the direct result of my environment. See, it was hard. It was hard at that time. Well, I deemed it to be hard. And nothing to be proud of, and this isn't to impress anybody at all. You know, like, I'm not saying this, but more to impress on people that you have a choice. And back then, I didn't think that I had one. I really didn't think I had a choice to do what I was like. I needed another job. There was no work, so I went out and just did what I knew that I could do to try and get some money together. And in heart and heart, I knew it's all wrong.
Yeah.
For sure.
You don't know any. Well, you don't think there's another option, do you? You think that you've got that one.
Not at the
one way
time.
of doing things.
Yeah.
You might not know any other way.
So then, that kind of all come to an end, and I was lucky. I just got a slap on the wrist, and it was like got fined and stuff, and all the rest of it. But in between that time, this is probably my biggest pain point ever.
Okay.
So we talk about confinement in a physical sense, but the prison of my mind on the next happening was it's probably the toughest ever. So had some relationships with girls and stuff like that, and they were just fleeting. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There was no depth to any of it. And we were at this party. We went to Streatham, this house party, and not going to be sharing any more details that need to be shared. But the next day it was kind of like, it's done. We just had a bit of fun, right? It didn't go too well. So a couple of weeks later, I'm at another gathering, at another party somewhere, and one of the girlfriends from the girl that we sort of like had, that we kind of got with, so I've got something to tell you. And I was like, yeah. I said, what's that then? And then her boyfriend, my mate at the time, not really a mate,
Right.
just a coincidence.
An associate.
Yeah. None of those people are any of my friends, definitely not. I realise that now, looking back. So, and he tried to shut her up. He was like, I told you not to say nothing to him. And she was like, no, he needs to know. And it all just blew off. So he ended up getting rocked.
Did he?
He did. But she told me anyway.
Yeah.
And she said, she's gone back with her ex-boyfriend that they were having problems. And he was actually a junkie, heroin addict. And he's got HIV.
Fucking.
And my heart just fucking sunk. I was just like, what? What do you mean? I knew what she said,
Yeah.
but
This
I was like, what do you mean?
doesn't compute.
I was shaking, and I really wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No.
I really wouldn't. So for best part 5 years, I kept that with me. Anxiety crept in, heavy depression, worry, fear, daily basis. Like waking up, looking at yourself thinking, I don't recognise that mark, or I don't recognise this.
Oh, mate, yeah, I can't imagine it.
The people then that I was associated with, like, I just started to move away from them, and then I literally went into the darkest of places, mate. And whatever was at the forefront, it was it was tough, man. Like the fear that struck me.
I can't imagine how much weight and fear you carry every single day.
And it scared me so much that I just didn't have the balls to go and get tested. Like I was so fearful of the result.
It's
It's
not a fear of, I can imagine it's not the fear of being told no, it's that possibility of being told definitively yes.
Yeah. So social awkward. I was very socially awkward internally, but on the outside, I was still this happy-go-lucky, cheeky chappy, full of confidence. You know, this kind of like facade of, but that's what kept me going, and I don't even know why that kept me going, or that inner spark that I had, because there was something there. Because I was suicidal, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was never going to happen. It was a fleeting thought, you know, but it come regularly. Yeah. It was always coming, and it was just, and as soon as it came, it was like, no, it's gone. I dismissed it. But I got more heavy into my marijuana, the Charlie, the speed. That was my saviour. That was my only way that I could numb myself off from the thoughts that were going through my head. And to be fair, how I managed to get through that, yeah. I really don't know how.
5 years is a long time, isn't it?
I mean, I was celibate to a degree.
Yeah,
like, I could not put myself into a relationship knowing, or the illusion that I knew that I was ill in that way. So, yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. And it just spiraled out of control. I was like more violent. I was snapping out. I was working as a scaffolder. I wasn't a fitter. I was just like a dog's body, but I enjoyed the work. And it was just live for the weekend. But
yeah.
I think what I've learned from that was, I don't know if you've ever heard this expression. I think it's an old military expression. So the boys out there that are military, probably, because I'm not, only through my father and stuff, but it was like, you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter.
Yeah.
So that was me in a nutshell. Like, inside I just felt like shit, one for a better word. And but on the outside I was just this like, yeah, everything's great.
How did you get by?
No, I said I think there was always just that little spark there. There was always the little spark in me. Always, there's always been a little bit of light. And again, it just comes to like that word's being suppressed. So if it wasn't from family and environment, wasn't from my outside environment, life, I just felt suppressed all the time. But there's always something there, little bit of fight in me.
Yeah.
You know. So I think we all have that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever's going on in your life, we all have this little bit of like, no, I'm not fucking giving up. I'm not just going to curl over. I just have to. But that's in reflection now. Is a lot more positive, right? But you know, all I would say is that time, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And that was all based on slander and I don't know if it was jealousy back then from how I was compared to, you know, the people that I was around. Because man, I was like, we all thought we were a big fish in a small pond, right? We were untouchable.
Yeah.
But the reality is, mate, there's a big freaking world out there, and if once that pool and that horizon expands, and your life gets bigger, you realise that we're just little fish.
Would you say you were angry?
Angry,
yeah,
always.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like Hulk. Always angry. It was always. It didn't take a lot. 0 to about 100 mile an hour in a second. Because there's I couldn't deal with a conversation back then either. No way. I couldn't deal with an argument or it just ended up in scrapping.
Do you reckon that was because you didn't want to let anyone get too close to the real you, so that you kept them at such an arm's distance, where if they started saying anything, no, you don't.
100%, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to let no one in because there's the stigma around boys, right, and lads. Like you don't share this stuff. We don't share this stuff. It's like it's just deemed as weak, right? Like so, no one knew. And even if it was bullshit, which it was, obviously, you know, it's just slander. It was just trying to get at me for whatever reason. But you know what? When I finally got tested, and I had a massive breakdown. This is where I had a bit of a pivotal point because I was out and about. And we had a pretty heavy session weekend, and we went back to a flat. And there's cards on the table. Everyone's like.
Sorry, do you remember how old were you at this time?
So now I've actually moved. I'm now sort of nearly 24.
Oh, right.
So from sort of being released, 19, finding out that news, moving on to 24.
Okay.
My world was just like not my world. You know, every day I'd go out with a jacket on and.
Would you say that you were the one that was living it?
Yeah. No one knew, but they all knew something. They was like, what's going on now? And I was just like, I was out of control. I was literally out of control. I was a menace. I was an absolute menace, you know. And like I said, I'm not proud of it. I really ain't. But so after this particular night, and it was just like fueled with drugs and alcohol again, and I'm sitting there, and as real as we're talking now, right, a little voice in my head. Now I laugh about it now because could it have been the drugs and the alcohol? 100%. Like, well and truly, the cocktail of what we did over that whole weekend was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He said, Alex, go home. Like, as clear as we're talking today, right? Alex, go home. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a pause. Everyone's like, you all right, Al? It's like, yeah, I think, yeah, you're good, mate. Everybody carried on. And then literally, like, 10 minutes later, it come again, but it was more forceful and it was, like, more directive. It was like, Alex, go home.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
Like, goose pin. I've got goose flesh now, just talking about it. Man. And I just got up and left. But I didn't really have a home to go to at that point. I still didn't have a solid place. I was still kind of like bouncing around, you know. And of all the places in the world that I ended up, knocking at my dad's door at like 4:30 in the morning on a Sunday, opens the door. What the fuck do you want? It's like, you know, see my dad and stuff, but it was very like hit and miss. Like, what do you want? I said, Dad, please, I don't want any grief. Can I just come in and get my head down? I just need to get myself straight. And he was like, right, you're in, but you're out before 10 o'clock. Your mum's been up all night. She's like forever worried.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, forever worried about where I'm doing and what I'm going up to, you know, as mothers do. Like, they worry for you and care for you, right? I never really had that thought in my mind so much at the time because I was still busy dealing with the shit that I allowed to lay out on me. So with that, he allowed me in. So I got my head down and got up and I left, and I had to go back to because I left everything there. So when I got back, it was chaos, man. It's just like the place had turned up. It's like fucking police were there. Big kickoff. Yeah. So a couple of people got hurt.
What happened?
So yeah, there was a couple of boys got cut.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So not life threatening or anything, but still had to go to hospital. Police were there, and it was like, "What's your business?" It's like, "Oh," gave them my name, and I said, what happened? I said, I don't know, I left. He said, have you got an alibi? That I said, well, I do. It's my father, we don't get on too well, but, you know, if I weren't at home, he would say, no, Alex is bullshitting. Like, he won't lie for me. No, so it's like, okay, so it all panned out. But from that day when I got back, after the officer, he actually said to me, he said, someone's looking after you, young man. He said, there's an angel on your shoulder. He said, thank God that you left, right? And I was like, yeah, mate, because I could have been involved in all that.
So if someone had blown up with the...
Yeah, it's probably money or toxicity, right? So toxic environment, toxic...
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Like, so, like, the drugs were going on, the conversations are not great, you know, it's all just toxic. The environment was just toxic. And from that day, I've pretty much gone teetotal. So I stopped smoking instantly, I stopped the drugs. The only thing that I carried on a little bit was the alcohol at the time, but it was nowhere to the level that I was drinking. I mean, when I woke up in the morning, the first thing it would be reach for a bifter and a can, and that's how I lived. It was just, it wasn't great. So moved on massively, but I had a huge breakdown. So now, luckily, my father and my mum said, look, just come stay with us for a bit. Just get your head, because they could see I was just broken by this point.
I can't imagine what that must have done to you psychologically. Like, you hear this strange voice, and then not only do you hear it, but it has given you a clear, direct message of something that then actually happened. So what were you like after that happened? I'm sure you were just about to say, but...
Still lost.
Yeah.
A little bit kind of like, man, right, okay, and I did have a sense of like, man, this is a clear message. This is a clear message out, like, and it's, without even realising it then, but I'm talking about it from a place now, I call it the whisper of the universe.
Oh, nice.
And it's always whispering, always. And this is newfound knowledge that I've kind of leaned into, especially this last few years. But looking back at it now, that definitely is a whisper. It's like a warning. It's like, hey, brick wall, like, you should be doing this. But the way I reframe it now and look at it, it's like, I didn't have a home to go to, but maybe the home for me to go to was myself.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. In what way?
As in, I was so far from where I should be as a young man, stripped of so much stuff that I should have never really ever been experiencing, I feel. You know, how my parents would look at me and how much aggro I've caused them, you know, because I have in that time. You know, and the worry and the fears and all the stuff that they've probably 100% experienced because of where I'd gone to. So like, maybe that was like, Alex, go home to yourself. Like, that's kind of how I look at it now in a way.
So it's almost as if you were being everybody in the world other than yourself. Yeah,
because I don't think I should have ever been that guy.
Yeah.
You know,
you say that guy because it's not you.
No, I don't think I should have been that guy. Because as much as everything else, I've been brought up with good morals. Like, you know, like my mother, right? So it's really like chalk and cheese, if you want to call it. So my dad was quite that hard nosed, like sort of emotionally detached.
Yeah.
As a father, it's like he was, you know. But my mother was the carer, the nurturer, the worrier, and all the rest of it, right? So, but it was one thing that my mum used to say, and it was like, it's so hard to see the bad in people. It's really difficult to see the good, because we're very judgmental very quickly.
Yeah.
And as much as we say that we're not, we are. As human beings, we judge massively. Like, whether it's good, bad, or in between, neutral. We do it, it's just human nature, it's what we do. But she said to find the good in people is the hardest part. But my mum lived her life for everybody else as well. So she was definitely a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And she was very conscientious of like what people thought of us and stuff like that. It just like, really definitely ground my mother down.
Right.
So it had those really positive. My dad was hard working and all the rest of it. It was straight. It wasn't not a criminal or nothing. He'd served the country. You know, he's an upstanding guy.
Yeah.
So like it's, you know, I don't want people to think that it was the horriblest of environments, because there's, you know, when you share your pains and you talk about stuff and you open up, you realise actually there's a lot of people out there that, I don't know if the listeners would agree, but I'm sure if you've listened to this and you've had a bit of a turbulent upbringing with your father, no doubt they'd be like, mate, well, I get what you're saying, mate. I get what you're saying, Alex. But at the same time, and it's not a comparison, but we had it a lot worse. And that's fine. And that's where I think you draw the line now, is where you can show empathy and understanding for other people's pain, rather than just poo-poo it and go, pull your socks up, mate. What's wrong with you? You know, you haven't had it hard.
Yeah.
You haven't had it hard. Look at these battle scars. Look at these kind of, you know. So I think that's really relative, and I think it's important to understand.
Absolutely.
That, you know. So
it's like, well, like I accept that there will always be someone who's had it a lot worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't empathise,
No, exactly.
listen, and try to understand.
Mm.
Like I've not experienced what you've been through, so I'm not gonna completely understand it.
Yeah.
But I can try and put myself in your shoes and empathise with what that might be like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never invalidating, like.
No. Yeah. I think it's just that we all have our own. We're on our own journey, right?
Yeah.
It's all about our own journey, and the trials and tribulations that each of us all have, they're relative to us. Where we sit, where we stand, where we walk, it doesn't matter. There's just ingredients of life, right? That's what I call it. It's just ingredients of life.
Yeah.
And they're all being put in the pot at the end to create almost a finished product, right?
Yeah.
A nice life at the end of it somehow. But it's learning, I think, to step out of that reflection of your past.
Yeah.
And rather than allow it to keep hindering you and stopping you from having a future, once you realise that, and you've got a choice to actually use it to fuel you to push forward, rather than just keep using it as a frigging excuse about why your life is so shite.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Comes back to accountability, doesn't it?
Accountability, 100%, and I'm fully accountable. I look back at everything now that's gone from my life. I'm accountable for everything, right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's a powerful lesson to swallow.
Yeah, fucking hard one.
Man,
but
you know, like actually to admit and say, you know what, I can't blame anybody else. I mean, I don't know if anyone's. I'm sure everyone's heard the phrase where when you point the finger, you've got three pointing back at you.
Yeah.
It's true. You know, it's his fault, it's their fault, it's that fault. But actually, you're part of that every single time. So you're the movie star in your own life. Everyone else is like
an extra.
Yeah, they're an extra. You're in every single scene. So I guess if it shows up, guess what? It's the frequency or the life and your outlook or your perspective, which is what shows up.
I think you have an excellent point in that we get so caught up in our own lives, our own problems, our own pasts, our own traumas, that it can be difficult, but it's so valuable in being able to step outside of that and be open to somebody else's.
Yeah.
But also, you know, not be defined by your past. Like I shared with you that quote the other day, Jean Paul Sartre, freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Yeah,
that put a big smile on my face because I instantly understood it.
Yeah.
It's powerful, right?
This has happened.
Yeah.
I might have done a lot of those things. I might have made a lot of those fuck ups. I might have been the reason for all of those mistakes and the good things as well, but that was then and this is now.
Yeah.
Like it can definitely take a long time to be like, okay, I've got a backlog of shit and responsibility that I've got to work through first.
Yeah.
But when you get to that point of, okay, now that I've handled and sorted and accepted everything that's come, let's now have a look at what's to come.
Yeah.
What can we do now? Because I'm the one that's in control. I'm the one that's responsible for me. Where do I want to go?
Yeah, I think it's like stepping into your fear a little bit as well, stepping into that. So, like, on that would be the fact then I still had a bit of a breakdown at my mum's house. I was sort of in the corner of the room. I remember just bawling my eyes out, and I was just like, man, and then I'm like, what's going on now? Like, my brothers were like, what the actual is going on? And I said, I'm dying. And I said, what do you mean you're dying? I said, I'm dying. Okay. And I told him, I said, mate, look at you. There's no way that you're ill. I was fit, you know, I was like strong, I was scaffolding, I was strong. And he said, just take a look at yourself, Al. There's no way that you're ill. He said, right. They literally dragged me down to the hospital, and they took me there. And it's like, you're getting tested now.
That was what you carried for 5 years.
Yeah.
Just inside you that, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Fuck hell. I'm
a walking corpse, mate. So I had a real like I don't give a fuck attitude. I had.
Yeah, because was
the thing is I had no. This is the biggest contrast I think I can. I had no fear of nothing outside of my own fear that I'm already dead. So my biggest fear in life was that I was already dead. So anything outside it, it didn't register.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
I can empathise with that.
So yeah, went down, got tested. I was bricking myself, man. I was shaking, like it's just an expression that I picked up. My bummer was like 5p, 2p. It was like, fuck, man. I was like, shit. I had to wait for the result, right? And then when it come back, that I was clear, like clean. Oh, mate. Just an absolute flood of emotion just hit me, and
5 years worth.
Like freedom, freedom, and then from that day, I've progressively started to build on my life and move forward and get to a better place. And yeah, we talk about the whisper of the universe again. So I'm now looking for a new job role.
Okay.
Yeah. So. I've moved away from it. I've turned my back. Like I'm not associating myself with these people no more. I quit my job. I stopped smoking. I stopped the drugs. I minimised my alcohol level to just enough, right? So, but everything else just went teetotal. And I'm looking through the paper. I'm still at my mum and dad's house at this point. It's like a few weeks later, and then it just hit me, boom, out of the paper, almost a full spread. Become an HGV driver. Learning 4K plus the VAT, do your class 2, do your class 1, but on the bottom of it, it was like job opportunities, etc. But you had to pass a drug and alcohol test.
Okay.
I'm like, I need to do this because that's going to help me stay away from that environment. So even now, a lot of opportunities have come, and it's been like, man, I've been so close and so tempted to have a little.
Yeah.
Like, because it's been around still. You're never going to get rid of it. It's always somewhere, and then someone will be doing something. But you know what? No, man, no. And so at the time, I didn't have the money. My mum and dad were like, "No, mate, no." So I went and got my credit card, paid it on credit card, and I remember the conversation my dad had with me as well. It's like, so what? You spent $4.5 grand. You didn't have the money. Stick it on credit card. And it was like, well, if I had a transport company, Alex, and I was looking to take people on, who do you think I'm going to take on? Someone with 2 years, 3 years or 5 years experience driving, or someone that's just passed their licence? And I'm like, Dad, man, Christ. Like, the shit I've already been through, and you're still suppressing me.
Not helpful.
Like, for God's sake, man, please, just... I said, so where do these guys get their experiences from?
Yeah.
They had to start somewhere, so just let me get out there. Man. Got myself a job, started, bang. Like 20 years later, I've been driving lorries now, you know. But where I changed my whole persona, like my life was different. There was purpose, there was something to live towards. So I then started thinking about, man, which I never really thought about before, because I couldn't. I had no room for any other. It was almost like, what's that X-Man guy, he puts that thing on
Oh, Charles Xavier.
Where at? But the other guy's the metal guy.
Ben, I'm looking at you.
Magneto, and he put that thing around his nut to stop matey getting into his head. That was almost like what my life was like, right? There was no room outside of it. It was just like blacked off.
Yeah.
And I forget where I was going with this now, but
because you were blocked off, you were like Magneto, but then you had this breakthrough.
I'm just trying to get myself together here because I'm just trying to think where I was going with that. Yeah, just open up like new horizons.
Would you say it's like a blank slate?
Blank
slate.
Yeah, it's like there we go. I was starting to build my life right. So I had there we go. So I was thinking about like what I really want: a relationship, a wife, a family, kids. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you've had a bit of a breakthrough and it's kind of all of a sudden now there's just endless opportunities that I can actually go out and get. I was free. Like I want to go and do stuff. So 4 years later, I'm in a much better place. Even though I've still got a lot of hang-ups, right? Because I've never went to counselling, I never went to go and see anybody. I dealt with this all on my own. Like as such, even after it, like, and that's the ugly head still surfaces now and then, right? I don't think it's ever not going to not be there, but like my coping skills and when it does happen, I know I had to deal with it. So then my brother said to me, he was working in Brixton at the time, and he was a manager at Agfa Video, which is like a bolt-on to Blockbuster or something like that. Right. And he was dating a South American that he met, and he said, I wasn't really in a great lorry driving job, but he said, we're gonna go to South America. You wanna come? Yeah. I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? So no intention of anything else other than just going out there to experience something. So I've never really travelled the world. Okay. You know. I met my wife to be. Yeah. But when I first saw her, mate, at first it was a no-go zone because I thought she was with someone. Right. And I thought that she had little kids. So the environment there was like completely different, as in socially. Family was like a real tight-knit, real circle. You know, and friends, only very small, tight stuff. Everyone like looked after each other. Yeah. And we were there for 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And at first, my wife Danny, she was like, "Oh, he's not interested," because every time she tried to make eye contact, I just look away like, "Nah, can't." Because it's one thing I've got brought up, based on my experience as well. Don't forget. Yeah. But also, like, I've never stepped on someone else's toes. Like when it comes to, even back then, before all that horribleness. So she didn't think I was interested. But it could be further than the truth. Then after the language barrier broke down a bit, we found out that was her brother and that was her nephew. Okay. But the way that they dance and they coexist with each other, I just assumed that they were a couple, right? So anyway, Danny then decided not to go on a trip with her friends, just to stay around for a little bit, just to see how that would kind of. It's one of my biggest words that I love. It's called marinate. So like, let's just see how this marinates. Yeah. Okay. Man, and I think I've been manifesting all my life, but I just wasn't aware of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How were you manifesting?
Just in my head, I wanted a wife, I wanted a family, I wanted kids. Now look, 4 years later, maybe that's a long time, right? For like I mean, when we talk about manifesting, right? You don't just sit there and go, right, this is what I'd love. All of a sudden, it just lands on your lap. It's wow, that's great. I just manifested that. It doesn't happen like that. Yeah. It takes time. Like these things shift. But I think because of my energy, like if I was anything like I was, there's no way that this connection that I would have ever had with my wife to be now. It would never have happened. She's from a Mapuche tribe, which is like Native American. So her surname is Lobos, and which basically just means wolf. And our name is Rivera, which basically means stream. So wolf stream cut thing. But her granddad, he was very spiritual. Like he was what they call a seer.
Really?
So yeah, so he could look at you and just suss you out in a second and boom. And the fact that he even just gave Danny the nod and the family the nod on me, like blew me away a bit. Because I was like, man, if he's a seer, he can see. But it's the soul that he sees, not your life happenings.
It's back to the start of our conversation. Waitrose.
Mm.
I think you could see.
Mm?
I think you could see a little bit of something, otherwise you wouldn't have asked. And
Yeah. So you get like a little bit of a.
Wow, imagine that. Having an encounter with someone that can.
Yeah, and he nicknamed me the blue-eyed crazy gringo. So like, so yeah, the crazy gringo. And I never even, and that is an education that I never had. So the word gringo in like Spanish is back in the day when there was like kicking off in Mexico and stuff like that.
Right.
And the Americans. And what colour were they wearing? Green. And what did the Mexicans want them to do? Go.
Ah.
So gringo.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's where that's kind of stemmed from. But if it wasn't for that nod, mate, it would never have happened anyway. And then we both really surrendered to each other. And man, we've been together since 2005. And we now have 4 amazing kids. My oldest is 16. So boy, girl. 16, 14, 9 and 7.
Wow.
My life has changed massively. And in that time, there's still been ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and we've gone through what life throws at you.
Mm.
But I've stayed strong within myself.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't subsided. You know, I've strived to still be the best version of myself. Not just for me, but for my kids and my wife and everything like that. And you know, there's so many times stuff's happened where it could quite easily have, you know, fallen off the cliff as such, and resorted back. You know, and there were times. I mean, we went through bankruptcy together. Okay. So even in the lorry, then I was again suicidal thoughts, but they were fleeting. They're coming and they're going like, no, what are you doing? Like, we can get through this. You know, we can get through this. You can get through this. We all can. I think that's the biggest message that I can actually send out there. So for the stage that you're setting, for the listeners and stuff, like whatever it is that you're going through, there's always a light at the end. Just concentrate on that little spark. Concentrate on that little sparkle that you have, because it's there. And once you start to like edge away from it all, it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And then new opportunities come, and then, you know, so like, don't ever give up. That's probably one of my biggest.
Yeah. I've heard a few circles refer to that light or that thing as their North Star. Mm. So find your North Star.
Yeah, focus on
it. And that's going to lead you to where you need to go.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm also a big believer in what you've done yesterday is not going to get you to where you want to get to tomorrow. So the lorry driving, even though it saved my arse, one for a better word, right, from that life, because it was like a school night every night. I couldn't go out drinking, because you go to work and there'd be a buzzer on the thing, you got to press it, and it's like a random drug test or a random alcohol. So you know, it's just random stuff. So as much, you know, if you did lean into have a little bit of a smoke, which is harmless really in the grand scheme of things, but when you're working as a profession, it's completely different. Don't apologise for the dog, man. It's raw and right. It's raw, isn't it? So like, it's cool. Yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah. So things started, and then I started thinking to myself, I'm really not enjoying this.
Lorry driving.
The lorry driving, yeah. Even when I was at Waitrose.
Okay.
So even when I was talking with you initially.
Yeah.
But I've moved on massively from there. So I want to have that positive impact on people's lives. So, like we addressed before, I want to leave a positive footprint behind me now.
Yeah.
Right. So when I go to these places, I'm doing stuff completely different, and I'm doing it because I think we're all going through something. So that initial conversation with you, and it was not just you, but there's so many other doors that I go to, and I was exactly the same there. I'll just go there, and I was just being.
I can't imagine that amazing conversation you've had.
Yeah, and then people think, oh man, I never really thought of it like that, or oh man, yeah, you know. But I started to really poo-poo it, and I was like, mate, I was missing my wife, I was missing the kids, stupid hours, I was tired. Probably quite sedentary, you know, as in I was too tired to really sort of get anything done. You know, it's quite taxing when you're driving. People don't realise that you are quite exhausted after a day's worth of being on the road.
And it's a bit of a contradiction, because you get to the end of the day and you're bloody knackered, but you've not gone anywhere. You just sat in that cab.
This is what people think. You sit there, you're just a steering wheel attendant, right?
Yeah.
It's an easy job.
No.
Easy, like as in, like once you've learned the skill of lorry driver, okay, it's just driving, but it's the responsibility that you carry. When you're driving a 44-ton fully loaded lorry, you're not just responsible for getting the load there safely and then intact, but you're, you know, Christ, man. Like if there's anything happens on the road, mate, they're the first ones to beeline you. And actually, look, the misconception is that they instantly think it's the lorry driver. They don't, because you're the professional.
Okay.
So instantly, they've already given you the benefit of the doubt. It's just process and protocol.
Yeah.
So have you been drinking or whatever? But thank God, I've never had an incident where I've involved another vehicle in all of my time driving. So I've been very fortunate. But yeah, it got to a point I was like, no, so BC, before COVID, as I call it. I don't know where I picked that up from, but I was all for unknown. Like I don't know who that was, but it just tickled me and it stuck with me, right? So like before COVID, I mean, I know it's a horrible topic, like anyway, regardless of whatever views, and it comes down to what's right or wrong. Opinions, black and white, red and blue, green and orange. Yeah, it's just there's always a thin line between the divide. Like it's like paper cut, you know, from that situation. But I saw a lot of friends, so being furloughed, losing their jobs, you know, struggling to pay rent, and there's me, almost now like an unsung hero, out in a lorry on my own, still doing my job. So I'm actually a qualified plasterer as well. So in between me lorry driving, I went out and studied my level 2 plasterer because I wanted to get out of lorry driving before. Yeah. So I'd done that, and it kind of like didn't materialise. It started well, but yeah, I just think that's a block. You know, not meant to be doing that. Even though I studied and I got my tickets, I did really well. It was a block. But I was thinking to myself, man, how grateful am I now actually that I'm still able to keep a roof over my family's head, right? Yeah. Put food on the table. As much as it was tight and it was tough, and everything going on in the world, just craziness, I'm still able to supply for my family. And I was seeing friends and stuff like that weren't, you know, neighbours, like both of them chefs, for example. But, you know, done. A guy worked at BA on the airport, and yeah, they were just chopping people down. Yeah. And it got me thinking, Christ, if I didn't have this, what would I have done? Which then led me into searching for other ways to make income.
Okay.
And scouring the web and all the rest of it, and then stuff started popping up on Facebook feeds and mentorship and property, become a property entrepreneur, all this kind of stuff. And again, it just resonated, right? It was like, okay, so another chance to learn a new skill. I've already had success with that. I've done my, just back a little bit, when I did my plastering, I paid out for the course It was 1 day a week for 2 years, level 1, level 2. And that cost me, again, I think collectively nearly £5,000
Really?
to do that. And then the same conversation with my father. If I had a plastering company, or if I wanted someone to come around and do a plastering job for me, who am I going to give the job? Someone that's just finished their ticket at college, or someone's got 5-10 years. It was the same conversation.
Right.
Why don't you concentrate on doing your CPC management for lorry driving and run your own fleet? So see how it just twists, and it just same sort of stuff, but did without that. So anyway, I got to the point, and I thought, no, you know, this guy kept popping up online. Guy called Liam. Am I right to talk about like other sort of verticals of other people's businesses and stuff?
Of course. Yeah.
So it's called Assets for Life, and it was a property mentorship. But you know, there was different levels of this entry, right? So I could only go in at a level that I could get my money to. So, you know, I could only learn so much. Yeah, because there's some of them are quite big ticket prices, right? Yeah. But something I resonated with Liam, and that was a little bit sort of his own life. So that you kind of resonate with people, right? Yeah. And then you kind of think, oh man, yeah. And like, if I can do it, you can do it. And he went through poverty, and he had drugs and alcohol, same sort of story, very, very similar background. So I went in, I just surrendered to that, and then I went, we'll give it a go. Let's see. And lots of people will be like, I call it goop. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but this is from someone else that I've worked with, but on the outer levels, if you know what I'm saying. Because when it comes to mentorship, there's like big tickets, and then it kind of goes out, and you've got your entry level stuff, which is like a few £100 here and there, you know. So not massive amount of money. But this other guy that I picked up, it's called Goop. GOOP. And it stands for Good Opinions of Other People. And basically, they come from people that you love and you know, so like family, mums and dads, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties. Yeah. It's all good opinions, but actually it's normally based around their own limitations of what you can and can't do, because they wouldn't go and do it. So it's kind of like, oh no, you shouldn't. Right. Don't spend that money out on that. There's other stuff you can spend money on. That's a waste. Yeah. You know, what are you going to get from that? You're just putting money in their pockets, and it could be further than the truth. For the real, I'm calling real G's out there that are doing this stuff to really make a benefit for people. Yeah, look, it's a business. You're still making money for it, but you're helping other people. So I learned tons from that. And that's where my real kind of self-improvement, mentality, outlook, pushing through fear, you know, pushing your comfort zone, pushing your levels more and more and more, led me to meeting other people with no intention. I never sought out, and I went, well, I'm going to find the best mentor in the world, and I just got on and started searching. Like, it was never like that. It was just like, yeah, I resonate with that, let's go with that. Okay. Met some great people, had some good conversations, really lovely people. You know, love and kindness was just breeded amongst these groups of networks and stuff, and you just meet people and introduce to new ones, and like my network just started to grow and grow and grow. Yeah. Then met different mentors, and then I fell upon someone else, and it's really escalated so much. There's a big reason why I'm where I am today, and if I'd never surrendered to that, I would have never met Rob Moore, another sort of property guy. Through him, I went to London on an event, and there was like Eddie Hearn's father, Barry Hearn. Yeah. He was a guest speaker. Okay. It's brilliant, man. Like, he was like a commentator and stuff. Like, I think it was more like cricket, but his son Eddie Hearn, the boxing promoter. Yeah. So he was on stage, and this dude come up, a guy called Ryan Pinnock, and I still carry my band today, and it's a reminder that we all have a super genius life. Okay. It's a super genius life. Like, it's all about your intuitive, like, genius. Like don't complicate yourself too much with the ifs, the hows, the whens, the maybes, how much it's going to cost, when I've got to get it by.
The woulds,
So-
the coulds, the shoulds.
Huh?
The woulds, the coulds, the shoulds.
Yeah, exactly. It's just noise.
Mm.
It's just noise. And I'm sitting there in this great group of big lump of people, and this guy next to me, I'm still friends with him today, although from a distance. He goes, mate, you want to get involved with that, didn't you? And I went, yeah, I do. I said, I just simply don't have the money for it. It was like 600 no's. He said, don't worry about it. He said, just go down to the back of the room, speak to them, they'll sort you out, no doubt. And I'm like, really? Do you think so? He said, mate, just ask them. What are they going to say? No? He said, what are you afraid of? You're afraid of a no? And I was like, well, maybe. He said, mate, get your head out. And he said, just if you want to go and do it, go and do it. So it's a 4-day event in Hammersmith.
Right.
So I went to the back of the room and I just posed a question. And they were like, yeah, it's not a problem. You can pay in instalments.
What?
We'll give you 4 months. It's not a problem. Yeah, whatever you can afford to pay today on today. I was like, about 100 quid. Sweet. And then went to this event. And man, just blew my mind. It was unreal. It was really unreal. And that's really been probably my biggest stepping stone from that day to now. With all the stuff that I've been learning.
Mm.
And when I look back at my life now, like, that's why I say, like, we've all been doing it already. You just don't know it.
Okay.
You don't realise we're all doing it already. So wherever you are in your life right now, I can hand on my heart, I can tell you, lads, whatever's going on, like, you're already doing it, you're just not aware of it. So like, step into a little bit more trust in yourself.
Okay.
Trust yourself, trust that intuitive message that is downloaded to you every single time.
Mm.
And for the best part, it's always going to be right. It's always going to be the thing that you're meant to do. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that is a perfect segue to make a cut for the first episode. What do you think?
Yeah.
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 Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you shortly. Or actually, we'll see you next week. Take care.